Hey, everybody. This is actually the end of the conversation that I had with Angela Madden. We just had a conversation that lasted. How long did we talk, Ange?
Long
it was a long time. But we went there. What did we talk about? We talked about everything.
Identity.
But it's focused on identity.
Yep.
We talked about a lot of things
Suffering.
that I think, suffering. Man, it's good perspective. I really enjoyed this conversation today, and I hope you guys do too.
Sorry, do you want to give any type of intro to it, or do you?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's exactly right. This is how Zach and I
Yes,
live.
it's true. It's true. We just roll with it.
We do.
Yeah.
So Cornerstone, so it was the fundraiser. So it was in the evening, which I'm normally there in the morning.
Okay.
And that was kind of nice, And then we have new tech. So we have these kind of like a cheaper version of in-ears.
Okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
So
but
you
we
have
tried
people
that.
talking to each other?
Yes, telling us okay, we're coming over to you at the wall,
okay.
or shoot it over to Tom at the desk or whatever. So that was fun, trying to work with that. And then
Do you ever try to prophesy whenever you have that? I'm just kidding. People come in, and you're like, tell me details. There was a movie on that way back.
wait, wasn't there? Who did that?
Oh, somebody did that.
Yeah,
That's
I remember
bad news.
that.
That's bad news, right?
Yeah, and they were
Luckily, we could joke about that.
"Oh man,
Yeah,
dang it!
but that was
Why
bad
did
news.
they do that?
Yeah,
Dang
and yeah.
it. Dang it!"
Okay, so back to Cornerstone stuff.
Yeah, so then we were with Tom. Was
How'd they do that?
Tom was like, "Oh, it was her first time," and it was just good. It was just really good. It was a good. It's it's a good place to give to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I just think that a lot of times people don't realize you got to do that. And so the way they did it this time, Sydney actually produced the show, and it was awesome.
She's gifted.
Oh, dude, she's so gifted. And it was clip, 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 clip. The camera wasn't on one person for too long, except for the message, which actually Pastor Jason Howard did it.
Oh, sweet.
On Tuesday. And, but it was just boom, 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 boom. It was good.
That's good.
Yeah. Because
So
how
they're getting a little younger.
they are.
Having Jason in, because I don't know, they had somebody in
Yes.
there a couple of years ago that I couldn't relate with very much.
Yes. It is.
how's it
Sydney
going?
actually read on the air on Tuesday this prophecy that was 10 years ago, and it was talking about how the generations, Abraham, Isaac, Joshua, all of these generations that we see in script, they were going to actually experience all together at Cornerstone, and it's happening.
Oh,
It's
so
happening.
multi-generational is,
Yes.
and I see that.
Young guys running cameras, doing video, on the,
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
And it doesn't have to, what I love about multi-generational ministry is it doesn't have to, one at the exclusion of the other.
Yes.
And that's what's beautiful. With
Dude.
Phyllis playing bass
Yeah.
with us.
Oh, I love that.
When I brought that up to a group of
love
pastors,
that.
they're like, wait, you have
a
a female 60, I don't know how
leading.
old she is.
Yes.
But playing
Yes.
bass, they're like, is she good? I'm like, yeah.
She's awesome.
Because that's, multi-generational
real.
ministry.
Yes, dude.
It's really cool.
It is.
Yeah. She's
It's
rocking it out.
And you learn so much. When we forget one, just like the men and women thing, that whole conversation. When you have one, you're neglecting an entire side of who God is.
Yes,
When you
yes.
have one
Yeah,
generation
yeah.
or in your life even, as
Yeah.
individuals, if you only have, I'm a millennial, so I have millennials in my life. That's it. I've got my parents, but that's it. I don't listen to anybody else who's not here where I am.
Right.
You're missing all this wisdom and all this strength that could make your millennial years your greatest years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But and it's any organization, if you don't have the voice of the older generation and the younger, if you don't have that middle group, you're missing a huge dynamic of what God wants and intended it to be.
Yeah.
If not, he wouldn't have had them all existing. He just died. You get to 30, you dead.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But we need all of it.
What's the core of that? That somebody says, okay, I'm not going to surround myself with anybody who doesn't
Yeah.
look like me, act like me, surround myself, we've seen it in different places where people, they go into a place and then they
Yes.
change how they dress, they
Yes.
change how they talk.
Yes, dude.
Everybody has to be the same.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't like that. It
I
scares
don't
me.
either. And I think it's fear.
Is it fear?
Right? It's
Yeah.
fear. I'm afraid of what I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid of being the guy in the room that doesn't know everything. I'm afraid to, a lot of times millennials or younger generation, they don't want really the older because they feel like it's outdated. Oh, well, they're going to challenge me in these places. And if they were to dig deeper, They don't want to be challenged on where they are. They think they're right in every way.
Yeah.
You know, same with the older generation.
Same.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
I was
not
about
like
to say the
one,
same.
like just
Yeah.
the younger people like this. The older, well, we don't need the younger people, and we know what we're doing. We've done it like this for years. Well, Pastor Lawrence used to always say, when people say we've done it like this for years, he says, it's the first sign of a dying organization.
Yeah.
You know, you have got to be willing to change, and change can only come if you have a diverse thoughts and diverse opinions, you know?
Right. Right. So it's fear.
Yeah,
fair.
definitely.
Have you ever changed who you are
Oh, dude.
in an organization?
Oh, like go in
Or
and
like-
become like them?
Or like not even an organization, but yeah. Have you ever changed who you are?
I feel like...
I'll keep it more broad.
Oh, for sure. Like, I think that, for one...
I know I have.
We're continually
Yeah.
evolving, right?
Right.
But then, yeah, like, for sure, like, especially as a young adult and,
Yeah.
like, as a teen...
Figuring out who you are.
Yeah. You're just trying to blend in. You don't want to stand out too much. You just want to belong. So you become what you're around, you know? But in that space, like, it's just growth when you realize, like, oh, man, like, this part of me is really cool. And, like, that's who I was made as. And if God created me like him, why wouldn't I let that shine? Why wouldn't
Right.
I share that, you
Right.
know?
Right. So identity,
Yes.
you talk about that a lot.
Dude.
You know, so I have a bunch of questions going through my mind for you
Yes.
in particular. I love when we get to talk, we can talk about anything.
Anything.
Yeah, we can talk
Anything.
about anything. So with regarding identity, how does somebody discover who God has called them to be, you know? Maybe.
Yes. So it's a process. It's a lifelong journey. And I tell everyone, like, you never arrive in your full measure of identity. Scripture says we see in part, we prophesy in part. But it's from glory to glory that he takes us, you know, like an unveiled face, you know? And so the beginning of really discovering who you are, or even knowing, like, do I know who I am? I think I have identity. I think I'm walking in it. The question is, like, where's your fear?
Yeah.
You know, because every individual is processing fear at some level most of their life, you know? And when you can identify the fear spaces, you can begin to identify who you really think you are and what you think of God. You know, so, like, that's a good beginning process, I think.
That makes a lot
Beginning
of sense.
first step.
That makes a lot of sense. You have an example of that?
So, yeah. So, like, one thing would be, especially for women, you know, well, I kind of fear the unknown. I think that's common among
Right.
all of us. You know, like, I'm afraid of the future. Like, I don't know what I don't know. Like, I'm just afraid of it. Like, there's so much uncertainty around. It makes me very uncomfortable. Well, why? Why are you afraid of it? Well, because, like, I want to know what to expect. I want to be prepared. Okay, I can understand wanting to be prepared, but what is it about being prepared that makes you feel better? Well, then I know, like, how to show up in that space. Well, what do you mean how I show up in that space? Like, well, if I'm going to have all the tools I need in that moment, in any given moment, okay, and that says what? Well, that I can be there, that I belong there. Okay, well, you belonged there before you ever showed up. Your belonging doesn't come from your future or from a position or from an organization. Your belonging
Yeah.
comes from God.
Yeah.
You belong, period, with him.
Yeah.
And so when I have that knowing and it's deep in me and it's drenched in every part of who I am, that I belong with him, every place I go in, I feel belonging.
Right.
There's not a space I can walk into that I don't feel belonging. Now, there can be obviously spaces where you feel resistance or you feel like straight up like
Rejection.
you're a woman, you're not,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? But, like, it doesn't change who I am and it doesn't change how I feel about me.
Yes.
And as you walk this journey more and more with the Lord, you can step into those controversial spaces, into those spaces where they're literally blatantly looking at you and saying you don't belong, and say, oh, you just don't know who you are.
Right. Boom.
I know who I am. You know?
So it starts with asking yourself about fear. Like, what are your fears?
Yeah. I think that's a great place to start. It's a very practical, easy place, and we can all assess it because we have very strong feelings towards it, you
Right.
know? And
I was processing that a couple weeks ago in the area of confidence.
Yes.
I've always struggled with self-confidence.
Yes.
Always. Okay. And a lot of times when I open up to people about that, they're like, well, I thought it was the exact opposite. You know, like,
Right.
well, I wouldn't have known that, or, you
Of
know,
course.
whatever.
Of course.
But the Lord really dealt with my heart that really, like, a lack of self-confidence is really pride, because I'm thinking about myself. Every room I walk into, what are they going to think?
Yes.
It's really pride.
Yes.
Wow. And I was praying for boldness
Wow, that's
right at
good,
that
Zach.
point. Isn't that
That's
powerful?
so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And two, like you made a good statement there. You said, I think like, what are they going to think? Mm-hmm. And it comes back to the garden, right? And so this is where kind of like the I am experience begins.
Yeah.
Take it back to the beginning, and in that beginning place of like, what are they going to think? It goes back to this need where the Lord says, after they eat of the fruit, he looks at Eve and he says, this is the consequence, okay? It's not necessarily punishment. He wasn't looking to punish what they did. He covered them.
Right.
He loved them.
Right.
But he said, because you've done this, here lies the consequence of what you've done.
Yeah.
What you've done is you've looked out here and you believed out here more than you believed from me, which was actually a here-to-here relationship, but a higher understanding, right? Because it was in God.
Yeah.
So you looked here, and now because of that, your heart is set, right? Where my treasure is, there also is my heart. She decided in that moment in the garden that her treasure lied in what that serpent said. So she ate of the fruit, and so did Adam, who was right beside him, by the way. Adam was right there. Mm-hmm. She didn't have to go find him. They both heard it, okay? Yeah. So she eats of it.
Now, going back to that.
Yes.
Did she ever hear it?
Did she hear the what the Lord told Adam?
Yes.
No, it was told to her by Adam.
Had to have been.
Absolutely.
Right?
But Adam was present when the serpent spoke the lie.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like, anyway.
The only reason I ask that is
great.
because a lot of times people are like, well, it was her fault.
Yes,
it was
right.
really a lack of leadership.
Absolutely.
That caused the fall.
Absolutely.
A lack of, and what I noticed about that too, this is kind of deep, I think, but when the serpent questioned the voice of God,
yes,
not only did he question, did God really say,
yes,
but it was, did your husband really hear God right?
Come on, dude.
Right.
That's good, Zach.
Right.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Was what was told to you true?
I'm going to divide.
Yes.
The husband
come
and
on.
wife, and I'm going to divide. So I'm going to isolate all three of you.
Come on.
Isn't that?
That's so good, Zach. I love that.
I didn't notice that until just recently when I was reading that.
I love that.
Kind of processing it because I started to ask myself that question. I'm like, wait, I don't know. You just like read and like some things you just assume that you know, and then you see it from a different light for some reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that layer. And that's where I think like even just going back to our beliefs of like what do they think or thinking, in that moment the Lord says, because you've chosen this, now Eve, your desire will be for your husband. Mm-hmm. Now like God's good. Like, I mean, he created other creatures and tried to make a companion for Adam. He said, this doesn't work. So let me actually take from his rib and make one that will be suitable for man, that they would become one. And he made man and a woman. But so her desire for Adam would have been innate.
Yeah.
It would have been a part of her existence. Like there would have been a natural desire. Like, Adam, you look good. Like, you're my man. Like, there's nothing competing for her attention. She would have known that. Mm-hmm. But when he says this, what he's saying is you're going to have a disproportionate desire for him.
Disproportionate. Okay.
In relation to me. Now, your desire and what you're longing for is to hear from him, I'm loved. I belong.
Wow.
I'm affirmed. You're good. Great job. You're going to go now, as a result of your eating, you're now going to be bent to look this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we were created to get it from here.
Wow. Yeah.
So as a result of that, that's where we start. That's where our flesh begins. We live in a fallen world. Thanks be to Jesus that he set us on a course of redemption and made us new beings. We're made new creatures in him. But that lie, that wrestle of flesh and spirit still exists in us.
Right.
So when we walk into a room and we have the thought or we have this idea, what are they thinking? It's a simple, hold up. Doesn't matter what they're thinking. That's not where my identity comes from. Mm-hmm. God, what do you think of me?
Yeah.
I teach my girls about everything. Go ask my opinion about everything. And, I give my wisdom and all that. But like, oh, sissy, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And I look at them, I say, what does God think?
Yeah.
Oh, he loves me. Mm-hmm. That's all that matters. That is like our statement.
I love that.
You know, that's all that matters.
So you're affirming their identity in Christ
Yes.
above anything else.
Above anything. You know, because it's,
Purposefully, yeah.
yes, because that is where the enemy comes. Like that's the first stop. That's why we have the crisis we have going on in this nation and in this world, you know, really first world problems. But is that we're clinging to lesser things
Right.
to give us a sense of value.
Yes.
When God creating you is your value.
Yes.
Like if you weren't here, no value. But the fact that you are in existence, that he knit you together in your mother's womb, declares you're valuable.
Right.
Like we look, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I
do.
I use that example of like G.I. Joe. I use G.I. Joe a lot. I used Elon Musk when I was talking the last time. Maybe that's more relatable with people, but the little G.I. Joe guys, like they're, you know, everybody's familiar with them. And who created G.I. Joe, the creator of G.I. Joe, he's the one who named it. Like, this is G.I. Joe. And so we all know him as G.I. Joe. I show up on the scene, I'm like, oh man, that's Machine Gun Mike. Oh, Machine Gun Mike. Well, I can call him Machine Gun Mike all day long. But when I go to that creator of him and I say, dude, I love Machine Gun Mike.
Yeah.
He's like, who the heck are you talking about? Like, did somebody knock off what I created and they're calling him Machine Gun Mike? You know what I mean? And they're like, no. Like this guy, I love Machine Gun Mike. He's like, that is G.I. Joe. Oh, no, he's Machine Gun Mike. Well, no, he is G.I. Joe.
Right.
I created him as such. Everywhere that he goes, he's G.I. Joe because I made him. I'm the creator. I've got the patent, you know? And so the point of it is no matter where you go, no matter what label someone assigns to you, no matter what they try to place on your life and say, oh, yeah, that's Machine Gun Mike, that ain't G.I. He's not an original. You're not good enough. You'll never measure up. They can say whatever they want. But the creator God is the one who designed you.
Yeah.
So he defines you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Max Lucado has a really good book on that we read to the kids.
Come on.
I can't remember what it is, but
Okay.
it's about a man who made puppets, right?
Come on.
Yeah. And it's, you know, the Wemmicks. That's what they are. It's really good. You should look it up.
Yeah.
I think you would love it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really good stuff.
Come on.
Yeah. But does it all go back to identity? Does everything?
Everything.
Yeah. Doesn't it though? And that's why your book is...
Everything. Like there is nothing in this world. Nothing. Not one thing.
Yeah. You're onto it. You're onto it. It's a relevant message for today, especially.
Yes.
You know, because if every person saw themselves the way that God saw them, wow.
It changes everything.
I was even having a conversation with a guy who's like, he's a good friend of mine. He's like, what do you think about me getting Botox? Right? If I told you who it was, you would laugh.
You'd be like,
you know, because
yeah.
he's hilarious. He's just a good guy. And we started talking about plastic surgery, you know, all that stuff. It's like, what does God think about plastic surgery?
Right.
You know? And
right.
I had to really think about that.
That's a good question.
I don't know what, I don't know why I hadn't thought about it. I have some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
You know, I have some thoughts on it now. You know, my old pastor was like, hey, you know, every barn door needs some paint every once in a while.
Well.
No, but actually, you know, you have to go back to the heart of it. You have to go back to the heart of it.
That's it.
You know, if a woman is like, oh, men like this, well, you have to
Yes.
understand that you're worthy
Apart from
outside of, oh my goodness, like how, you know?
It's like anything.
Yeah.
It's like anything. If you are going into a relationship looking to be made whole or to be fulfilled,
Yeah.
you're going in with the wrong mindset.
Yes. Yes.
You go into a
And
relationship.
that's the issue.
You
That's
know,
the
like
issue,
so,
isn't it?
Yeah. So
That's
like
the issue.
you go to plastic surgery, you go to drugs, you go to any
It's all
career.
medication. It's all medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any
and
of it.
It's like, okay, you know, you have liberties in Christ,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
like, is it wise? You know, you
Right.
have to weigh that,
Yes,
right? But God's
yes.
like, okay, here you go.
Yes.
You know?
Everything.
It's great. But it's different than like the child with debilitating acne.
Oh, of course.
Who might have scars and there's a
Yes.
surgery appropriate.
Yes.
Or, you know, the person who has like, you know, we've been in hospital visits with people where
Yes.
it's like, thank God for reconstructive surgery and, you know, it's unbelievable. But when your value is back
Yes.
to a certain thing, like everything moves later in life anyways.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
it all shifts.
sure.
It all shifts again, you know? And so like that marriage
That's
is a
true.
marathon.
That's
It's
true.
not a sprint.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so what works in one season it's not gonna be out for the duration. It's not gonna
Yeah.
carry through.
Yeah.
That's where I've landed on that. It's like, man, Lauren and I, we've had, you know, had a great marriage, man. We're going on 17 years.
Dude, I
17.
literally can't even believe that.
Yeah, and you guys are
Because
going
to
on
me,
14
you're still
now.
like in my mind, it's like you're 17. Because
Yeah.
I'm 17.
Right.
Right?
Right, yeah.
I mean, maybe 25.
Yeah,
We'll
but
fast
you and
forward.
Nate are going on 14 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, it's insane. We're
Wow.
13 right now. We'll be 14.
Maybe
next-
Lauren and I are going on 18, though. I feel like you guys were married a little bit later than us.
We
'cause-
definitely. Oh yeah, you
'cause-
guys were babies. You guys were babies when you
Yeah.
got married.
Yeah.
Because it was right out of college.
Right out
for
of
you
college.
guys. Yeah.
06. When were you guys married?
We weren't married 2010.
Okay.
So 4 years behind
Yeah.
you.
So we're 17 going on 18.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
We're
Because the
13.
only reason I remember that is because Noah was, you know.
A baby, like
Yeah.
3 days old at my wedding.
Yeah.
Your wife comes out of the
Oh,
hospital.
she wouldn't have
to
missed it for
come to
anything.
the-
She wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
gosh, that's how you know.
Wouldn't have missed it for anything.
my sister.
Yeah. Right? She's the best. LB.
And my brother.
Yeah. Yeah. You know it.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. So when we go back to, this is interesting, Ange, what you were saying about just about identity and even marriage. Marriage can be an
Yes.
idol.
Yes.
You know, it can actually be an idol.
Yes.
So I love that you had said, you know, we receive that from Christ first.
Yes.
And then that affirmation is natural and it's beautiful within the
Yes.
context of marriage. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
yes.
You know, I'm like,
Yes.
Lauren, you're gorgeous. Like she loves
Yes.
hearing that from me.
Yes.
But she knows that, and that actually
Yes.
makes her more attractive
That's
to
exactly
me
right.
because she knows who she is.
That's right, Zach.
You know?
That's
and
it.
regardless, I mean, I could probably say some really mean things to her and pull her off of that. I mean, that's relationship.
Right.
You
Oh,
know,
for
like-
sure.
like,
Oh, for
not
sure.
That I'm going to, but
No,
like,
but for sure.
when you open up your heart and relationship, the more you
Yes.
love someone, the more you're opening up for the potential of hurt.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
And so I could probably say some things that could shock her in that, but ultimately she'll always go back to her relationship with Christ for that
it.
affirmation.
That's
and
it.
that's the most attractive thing in the world.
That's it.
You know,
That's it.
to me.
Yeah. And it makes the healthiest relationships.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, and that's
Yeah.
why, again, like, you
Right.
can't escape this identity thing.
No.
You know, and like,
This church is going to fix this.
yeah.
This relationship is going to fix
Yes.
this. This surgery is going to fix this.
Yes.
What's at the heart
Behind
of
it.
this,
Yes.
as opposed to fixing the outside all the time.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And it's identity, right?
It's identity. It's identity.
Yeah.
Everything. And like you said, like marriage, it becomes easy. It's easy. I mean, effortlessly it can happen in marriages. Effortlessly. That this becomes the God of my life.
Yeah.
My husband becomes the God of my life. My wife becomes the God of my life because that's who we're spending time with.
Yeah.
Now we're like relying on them for all of our value and all of our worth. And like, and when that happens, that's what begins the downward spiral towards divorce because a man can never be God.
Right.
A man can never fill a woman or a woman, a man can never fill the other like God can.
Yes.
As much as my husband knows me, my Nate, my man, as much as he knows me, he is never going to be able to know the deeper, most inner workings of my heart at any given moment.
Right.
Only God discerns that. You know, so you have to, with every space, whether it's marriage, whether it's career, whether it's friendships, whether it's schooling, in every season, you have to ask yourself, am I placing this in the appropriate place? Is this the end all be all of my life? Or is this simply another part of who I am? You know, and I think success, like a lot of times we're like, oh yeah, you know, whenever you're looking to glean from someone, like they become your God or like I need. But also like success can become just as much
100%.
of a detractor
Yeah.
and distractor from
Right.
identity. You know, and it's like that becomes what you're known for. And then suddenly that thing is taken. Now who am I? You know, this is my brother Brant and I actually had this really good conversation. He played Division I basketball, was phenomenal. Same with my brother Rod, phenomenal athletes, and wanted to go pro and was looking at overseas and all this. And when he was no longer playing basketball, he found himself like every athlete, like every career change, found himself saying like, well, then who am I?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right?
Haven't
Like,
we?
like
Yeah.
who am I? Like if I'm not this guy, Nate and I have had this same conversation. He played professional soccer and he was like, I literally had a season where I felt like I was in such darkness because I thought, who am I? I'm not Nate Madden, you know, this pro soccer player. I'm not Nate Madden, the big man on campus, this goalie. Like, so who am I? And that is why it is so important at every juncture and every moment that we get this identity thing, Zach,
Right.
into as many people as possible. There are high-level executives, the majority of them, high-level leaders, the majority of them, who are functioning in a false identity, and they don't even realize it,
100%.
but
Yes.
their organization feels it.
Yes.
Everybody around them feels it. They might not call it identity. They wouldn't actually. They probably wouldn't at all use those terms. But they'd say,
What would they call it?
They would say, when I go into work, you can't say anything there. I know better when we go into that meeting. I'm not saying nothing. No, stay quiet.
Yeah.
No, you cannot do that. If you show up and you say that, you're going to get fired. You know what I mean? There's this this space that is identified by everybody working around them, and yet they're blind to it. It's a blind spot. Can't know a blind spot unless somebody tells you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's why we got to tell them.
Yes. Yes. Right.
You know? It's so critical.
So in this area of identity, executives
Yes.
struggle with this.
Yes. Yes.
Kids struggle with this.
Yes.
Marriages.
Marriages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In every
And it's you were saying it's important to get this in every
person.
every space. Yeah.
Every place, every
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Like even like the ones who don't know Jesus, the truth sets free, period.
Yeah.
So when you get the rooting that like you make a choice, you either believe nothing created everything or that a God who sits outside of time and space created everything. I mean, those are your options,
Right.
right? Eternity's written on the heart of man. Every human being. I don't care if you look me in the face and say, oh, you're a liar, I'm an atheist, blah, 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 blah. You know God exists, period. Okay? Mm-hmm. When they get the revelation and understanding that, hold on, God exists, so now wait. That means I was created with an intention. I wasn't just like an atom that exploded and here I am. I was created with intention, okay? So it tells me somebody outside of time, outside of space, has created me, and that makes me valuable. Mm-hmm. So now when I recognize, I've got value that lies outside of time, I'm too old to be able to do. I'm too young to be able to do. When you realize it exists outside of a space, my boss told me I didn't do a good job. They're going to fire me tomorrow. My parents told me I never measure up to anything. When you recognize that it exists, your value and your identity exist outside of space, any space you're in, outside of time, any season of life that you're in. You are rooted. And this is where peace comes from. This is where you find true joy. Mm-hmm. This is where you experience goodness and kindness and why you can show up in the world with gentleness and self-control.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not struggling to get all these things. I know I've got everything that I need. And anything that's outside of that will come to me as I need it.
Yes.
It changes everything. Everything.
Yes. Yeah. So, did you feel that when you were you did a lot. In life, you've been everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ministry for a long time.
Yeah.
How long were you in ministry in Ohio?
So I was there for 6 years.
For 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you slept for like 2 years, I think it was. I remember that. I'm like, where's Ange? It was like 5 in the afternoon. We'd come over. Like Nate would be up. Like, where's Ange? She's coming down for the first time today. Well,
I did.
and the context of that,
rest.
right? The context of that is you worked your tail off.
Yes.
You worked so hard.
Yes.
Harder probably than what
it.
was healthy, but
Yes.
you loved it. Yes.
Every bit of it,
Yes,
I loved it.
yes. And
every
that drives
bit.
us. Yeah.
But my body, like, what came
I did the
home was
same
like,
thing.
"What?"
You
Yes,
know I
did.
did the same
Yes,
thing.
you did.
We loved every minute of it.
Every
right?
minute.
Yes.
Wouldn't have changed it for anything. Like,
Nope.
literally from pastor.
There were moments,
Right,
everybody has moments.
Sure.
You know, where I'm like, this is so dumb. What am I doing? But then other than that, I loved it overall.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's,
Yep.
I was with Pastor Darlene and Pastor Lawrence Bishop
Yeah,
for those
yeah.
6 years. And
They're good people.
oh my gosh, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful foundation from my parents and my brothers who still give me that. Beautiful foundation for my upbringing. Jesus making me new. Pastor Darlene and Pastor Lawrence birthed in me a spiritual identity like none
Yeah.
other.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Was that by just being around it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. They were okay. If there's anybody that I've never met them,
No.
but I've seen a couple videos here and there.
Yes.
They knew who they were, and they stuck to
Yes.
it all those years.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
man, that's unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
But they were also older in ministry too.
They were.
Do you think they had times where they had to discover that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And I think that too.
I mean, nobody's born that way, so I'd assume
No.
everybody does.
Yes.
Right.
I think too, just like the wiring of them, like to be able to watch, Pastor Lawrence was a self-made millionaire at 30. Okay. From his horse business. They invested it was their money that paid for their church. They didn't take salaries, and he has this successful business. So he never looked for ministry to identify him, to tell him who he was.
Yeah.
And conversely, he had this thriving church, and he never looked to and thriving business. He never looked to the business to define him. So he never found himself in a place where he was looking for his self-worth in something he did.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what was so amazing, Zach, is like anyone who would meet Pastor Lawrence, there was one thing that they would always consistently say: that is a man's man, and he don't care.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a lack of compassion. Oh my gosh, he would go down and talk with everybody and had such love and kindness and gentleness, but he knew who he was. And so if you mess with him, he didn't back down. No.
I think that is the definition of a man, tough and tender.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You say that all the time. Yes. Tough and tender.
And that was him.
That was him.
Yeah.
And that's what our men need to know.
Wasn't there a situation one time in church where he had to I don't know. You probably know where I'm going with this one.
So many times in church, yes.
Yeah?
Where he I mean,
Give me one.
Okay, I'll give you one. Let's do the music one. That's an easy one. So we had acquired another church, South Campus, down south of Cincinnati. And this guy comes up, it's a new vibe, and they rock out, solid rock, they're rocking, And this guy comes up after service, beautiful service, people getting prayed for, everything that's supposed to happen in the house of the Lord happened, And he comes up, he goes, "Well, brother, it's a good service, but one thing, that music you're playing is way too loud. You need to turn it down, blah, 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 blah." And I just laughed.
You were there. You got to hear it.
Laugh, Zach. He goes, "Oh, okay, brother, I appreciate that." He said, "Well, I hear about 2 miles down the road, there's a nice Presbyterian church down there, and they play their music nice and quiet. You can go ahead and visit that church because we're not changing our music." And he said it with kindness and the guy,
Right.
"Okay, okay." You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's and you've had this you've had this experience so many times already as a senior leader, much less as a youth pastor and a young adults pastor. So many times where people, they don't even know you, and they come into the space and place that you're running, and they're like, "This is what you need to do."
Right.
And you're like, "Who are you?"
Yeah, especially in the early days.
Yes.
Especially in the early days. Everybody wants to mold things into their image, and,
Yes.
we're responsible to do what God tells us to do.
That's it. That's
You
it, and
know?
that's all.
That's it.
Yes, that's it, and that's all.
Yeah. I was reading 1 Corinthians 3 today where it talks about anything that wasn't built on the foundation is going to
on.
get burned. And I'm like, I don't want anything that I do to be burned.
No, no,
That's going to be, I'm going to stand before God for everything that I do
everything,
as a leader and as a pastor.
everything.
I
and
can
all
stand
of us
before
will.
him right now with a clear conscience, right?
Yes.
But a little bit of what did I miss? Did I miss
Yes.
anything? You know what I mean? There's that accountability there. I love it. I love it.
Yes, I do too. And I think that, that it's healthy.
This person who is who goes into a church and just says, let me give you my advice here.
Yeah.
That is so weird. It is so bizarre.
It's
right?
Yes.
And it goes back to identity.
Yes,
they don't
it
know who
does.
they are, and
That's
they're trying to assert their
That's
identity.
it. That's
but
it.
it is so weird. Do I go into a high-end restaurant and be like,
No.
let me tell you how to cook this thing, okay?
Literally.
Because I've been going to restaurants for 25 years.
Yes.
I've been going there.
Yes.
You know?
And I guarantee there are some people who do that.
I would love to. I would love to commiserate with a cook, a chef. I would say who's somebody came back and
Absolutely.
yeah. It happens all the time with us though.
It does. It does.
And because we're supposed to be nice.
yes.
But that's where Pastor Lawrence provides the
Yes.
example of you can be tough and tender at the same time.
Yes.
You can tell the truth politely.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, it took me a while to master that. And I'm still
Yes.
mastering it, but I've gotten so
Yes.
much better. And
Yes.
now that I'm a couple wins, I'm like, man, wait, that felt really good.
Really
to be
good.
so kind, but so direct.
Yes.
That's not going to work here.
Yeah.
I've never had somebody come in and it work out like this. So there's plenty of churches in the area.
That do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do what you want, or that might want to hear your advice without relationship,
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's life. That's leadership.
It is.
I don't like that side of leadership, but I don't,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
No.
Do you get that with what you
necessary.
do? Because you're doing the I Am experience. You're doing.
Yes.
You wrote the book. Are you coming out with a second edition of the book? I think somebody told me you were.
Yeah, so we have a
You told me that.
2.0
2.0 coming out.
experience.
Okay.
So like another
Okay.
experience, like a more in-depth experience. If you've gone through the I Am experience, then
Which
you
is
can go
phenomenal.
to 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it
how are
dives-
you updating?
So that dives more into relationship dynamics.
Okay.
And what it looks like in those contexts, in those moments, like when I'm asserting myself, when somebody's asserting themselves against me, like how do those kind of play out? How are those relationship dynamics look when you're rooted
You're
and
so
grounded?
genius at that. I love
Thank
that.
you,
I love that
Matt.
you're teaching
Thank
that.
you.
Guys, everybody listening right now, you have to understand how genius Ange is at that. It is so
Thanks,
fun.
Zach.
It is so fun to
Thank
see.
you.
Did you learn that from Lawrence?
So I think that part of it
Well,
is
Darlene was the same, right?
Oh, yes.
She would handle
Darlene is masterful.
So smart.
So like, yeah,
okay.
like I
That's
literally.
where I would put you as masterful.
Oh, thank
in
you.
dealing with difficulty.
Thank you.
And
Thank
sometimes
you.
I'm like, okay, Ange, you don't have to continue to subject yourself to this punishment. You know what I mean?
Yes, but like it's like for me in those
You're like,
spaces,
come on,
like
let's hit it again.
Like
I don't know if I would have the patience to do that.
I just know that, like, really and truly, like, well, Pastor Darlene, even when you mentioned about her, I mean, Pastor Lawrence, phenomenal, but I traveled with Pastor Darlene. And so, everything that she is, every part of how she functions, I saw and I gleaned from, and I asked for more and more. And to this day, I ask for more. She is just remarkable. She is a woman who lives faith out loud in every moment. Like I lived in her house.
Yeah.
I traveled with her.
Yeah,
I was in the trenches of all of it. Business, ministry, family.
Yeah.
And she lives what she preaches.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. It's powerful. She is
I'm just
force
thinking,
to be reckoned with.
you've told me stories throughout the years that I'm like, what a great couple. That I'm so glad that you had that experience.
Oh, I am too.
But you traveled all
I'm
over
too.
the world with her too.
All over the world.
Okay.
All
That's
over the world.
Can I
Yes.
ask you something?
Yes.
Okay. People asserted what they felt to Darlene at
Oh,
various
yes, in the
times.
church, yes.
Did they do that in different countries? Or is that just a U.S. thing?
That's
I'd
very-
imagine it'd be difficult to do that through a translator. I'm being a little bit facetious.
Yes. No, truly, though.
Translator's like, I don't think you should say that in their language, right?
Well, there were
Maybe there
moments
wasn't.
that we've had translators that were like, you think they're really saying what I just preached?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Sure. You have to wonder
But
sometimes.
You wonder, yeah. But like,
And that's why with a translator, they can't just translate the words. They have to be able to carry the spirit behind it.
100%.
Right.
Huge difference.
Mm-hmm,
Like, and Pastor Darlene would like, there were places we would go and she would like, hey, can we get, and Pastor Lawrence was like, can we get? The best church we ever went to was in Paris, France. And it is slipping my mind the name of that church. It is phenomenal.
What do you mean the best church you ever went to? I love that.
In translating.
In translating. Okay.
And it was the pastor's wife who did the translate.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she
okay.
mimicked Pastor
Yeah.
Darlene.
No, I
Everything
get it.
was, and it came out.
100% get it.
It
That's
was
why Melissa is in
remarkable.
Peru.
Yes.
Because she has a
Yes.
ministry gift.
That's it.
And so then she'll say, like, there's certain words that I would say, and she'd be like, that's not going to translate well. She's able to translate that on the spot and change it appropriately.
Yes.
And carry the spirit behind it and maybe add just a little bit more for
Yes.
the context in there. And it would be I'm like, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, thank you,
helped
Melissa.
me so much. Yes. But
Yes.
she's preaching as she's translating.
Yes.
Because she's connecting so well. You're
Makes
so
such a
right.
difference.
You're
Makes
so
such a
right.
difference,
So
dude.
that's what was going on in France.
In France.
Okay.
They did that beautifully.
Yeah.
But like, so I think two things. One, because of the position she's in when she was going into churches to minister, like people are like very accommodating. So nobody
Okay.
really like, And now in America though, there were churches we would go into and they would like very specifically be like, we want you to ba, ba, ba. And she's like, hold on.
Yeah.
Like I want to make sure that we do what the Lord's asking and I'm here to submit to your vision.
yeah.
I will do that. But and more so I would say in the church world, she would get that kind of like that push. But they arrived at a place in their ministry that people, I mean, before they ever got to, there were 5 people who were like, you ain't getting to them. You know what I mean? Like, we already know what this is about.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
So with that, there's a balance. Okay, I was thinking about this today regarding ministry because again, I want to make sure as a pastor that whatever I'm ministering, whatever I'm teaching, it says teachers are held to a stricter judgment.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that I am never going to teach something out of my own personal gain.
Yeah, come on.
So I can't withhold anything.
Come on.
That I know, unless it's appropriate and it's not good timing,
Absolutely.
or if people can't, ascertain it at this point.
Yes.
But to be led by God in that, sometimes I think manipulation can take place, and it's like, people say it's a form of witchcraft or whatever.
Yep.
But did people ever ask her to do something that was against her heart, like violated her heart as a minister? And if so, how did she navigate that? Because I'd imagine that was so.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not putting down pastors by any means, but we have to understand, like, not everybody has great intentions all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
She probably had run into that at one point.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Those are few and far between.
Yeah, I'm sure. Honestly, I'm confident of that. I know Sister Peggy was a woman who I didn't get the opportunity to meet, but Sister Peggy was like their spiritual mom, and she, Firehouse, the prophetic woman who, like, not prophetic like, oh, you're gonna have a great future, like prophetic. I see you at your house. You did this, 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 and this, and if you don't repent by sundown, you're gonna be found dead. Yeah. And they found him dead.
Yes.
So, like, this kind of prophetic woman.
That's like kind of like that's. And
you don't even see that today.
Right.
You rarely see that gifting.
Right.
And it takes a lot to be trusted with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And she denied herself in every way, Sister Peggy, Wow. Which she was single, by the way. Mm-hmm. Don't shun singleness.
No, I know, right? Paul said that marriage is a gift and singleness is also a gift.
Yes.
Yeah, and back to the idolization of marriage.
That's it.
Right?
In our culture, yes.
Paul said, hey, I would want you all to be as I am.
Yes.
And apparently he was single during that time.
Yes.
Now, to be a member of the Sanhedrin, he likely was married. It's fascinating, right?
That is fascinating.
Yep. He had to have been married to be a part of the Sanhedrin.
Interesting.
At least that's what I've read and studied through the years.
Interesting.
Right? So there's probably something that took place. Just like Mary, you don't see Joseph later on in life. What happened? Did he pass? He likely passed away.
Right.
I mean, he was much older, and he was in a business. He wasn't just a carpenter.
Yes.
He was a general contractor. That would have been very dangerous. He was building houses and buildings and, those types of things.
Especially in this time. Yes. Yes.
So
without OSHA.
Yeah, without OSHA. Definitely without OSHA. Yeah.
We love you, OSHA.
Yeah. For real. But Sister Peggy, we were talking about singleness. Lauren and I have had the realization that, man, marriage, we have to address marriage differently.
Yes.
It is not the end all be all. Mm-mm. And as a youth pastor, I would often share that way. Yeah. That it is the end all be all.
Well, of course, because that's the season you were in.
Right.
That's the season you were in. Yeah. And that's where, again, it comes into, like, knowing who you are and being able to receive anybody and anything at any time. Yeah. Because, like, in those spaces, like, as the bride, like, oh, well, we're going to cancel it. They said this. And it's like, calm the heck down and take context into consideration. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, of course a youth pastor is going to say that. Mm-hmm. Of course a young adult. What are you doing? You're officiating 25 flipping weddings.
A summer.
At a summer. Yeah. Like, so, like, of course, that's where your focus is. That's where your bent is. That's where their focus is.
And their focus was definitely purity.
Yes.
Man, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it's like, just to kind of wrap the Sister Peggy thing.
Please go there,
So she was, one thing that she had said, she went into a place and, of course, this gift on her life is obviously ridiculous, prophetic. And in today's world, the same thing would happen. You go in, hey, make sure you share prophetic words. Like, I got this team, make sure you prophesy that, make sure. And so they said to her, when she went in, she was a minister of the gospel. Like, and this was a gift that she operated in. They said to her, hey, Sister Peggy, like, we don't need the word. We can skip that. You just go straight into prophesying. That's what the people are here for, And she said, oh, okay, Pastor, thank you for letting me know. She went up and she gave the word of the Lord. And she shared the gospel message. And she refused to prophesy. Mm-hmm. And she looked at the pastor and she said, don't ever ask me again to prostitute the prophetic.
That's what it is. That's what,
and so she, and she stood her ground. Because she, it goes back to the idea. And, like, this is where Again, identity. The disciples, Peter says, they're getting persecuted. And they bring him in to shut up, quit talking about this Jesus, quit talking about, beat you to pieces, quit talking about this Jesus. And they respond and say, whether it's better to listen to you or God, that's for you to decide. But we will not stop teaching of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not here as an individual, as a person. I'm not here to please man. I'm not here to fulfill man's call. I'm here to fulfill the call of God, which is relationship with him, number one and only priority in life. To be in relationship with the Father. Anything that supersedes that, or any person who comes, or anything in me that makes me believe I've got to listen out here more than I've got to listen here, has set itself up as an idol.
Right.
And you've got to strip that down. You know, so even when you're talking about like marriage and talking about how that's become an idol in our society, you're right. Strip it the heck down. Like, why is it so resurrected? Why is it so above everything else? Why are we? Because we're really saying we're not whole by ourselves. You know, we were sharing earlier in how, yes, of course, if we only have women in our circle, we're going to miss men's strength. We need men. If we only have young in our organization, we need the older. We're missing the older. But like, within me as an individual, I am complete and I am filled. Angela Madden is filled all by herself. Thank God for Jonathan Madden, and he makes my life fuller, and he gives me a great experience, and I get to do life with him because we're not meant to do it alone, but I don't get my identity from him. I had my identity before I ever met him. And when he came into my life, he didn't change who I was. He helped me to see my blind spots. He helped me to grow in who I was.
Right.
But like this Zach, that you have hit on about marriage, it really does have to come off the pedestal, and we just have to examine it.
Right.
It's a beautiful gift from God. There's no
it's so
question.
beautiful. Yeah.
We were created for it. Like, hello, it's not good for man to be alone. But we have to examine in what context, at what cost. At what cost am I holding up marriage as the end all be all? If it's the end all be all, if it holds my happiness, it's an idol.
Right.
My happiness is found in Christ right here, right now. And then if I get that, man, that's beautiful too.
Yes. Yep. Going back to Lauren, having joy.
Yes.
As opposed to happiness in material things.
Yes.
It's the most attractive thing in the world to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Dude, yes.
Unbelievable.
It's a fruit of the
So good.
Spirit. You know? And like, this is where again, people like who are like, oh, you know, I can't see God, or like, I'm struggling with this. Like, what are we attracted to? What you can't explain it, but it's pulling you towards someone, or it's pulling you towards an experience. What is it that you're drawn to? You're drawn to that which is the fruit of the Spirit. Okay? Can't see it, but you can sense it. You can know it when you see it, when you experience it. You can say, oh, I'm seeing it right now. It's not physical, but I feel it.
Yeah.
I know it in my knower, you know? And that's joy, gentleness, kindness, self-control, peace. Hello, somebody, give us peace in this day and age. You know what I mean? Like, that fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22 is like, it is evidence. It is evidence of that which is greater than us. Because it always draws us. It always pulls us. It always leads us into greater.
So good. So good. So you got the updated, you're updating, you're going
Yes.
2.0.
2.0, yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Tell me more.
Yeah,
Tell me
so
more.
so we do the I am experience, you know,
Relationship.
dives into identity, and it's a lifelong journey.
Okay.
Identity is,
Yeah.
okay? So then 2.0 kind of picks up where we really leave off in the I am experience, which is with relationships and dynamics of relationships. So I'll give you this example, and I share this in the I am experience. So any of you have gone through it, like, they'll be familiar with this story. And there's a gentleman, man of God, phenomenal man of God, knows who he is, like, rooted, you know? To be one of these guys that you're just like, man, you walk and you're like, you know, like, you feel like you hear angels, right? But this man of God's in his home, and this guy comes in wielding a knife, and is like, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you. And he's unmoved. He's literally, his body posture, his position, a little surprised that he busted into his door, but he's unmoved. It's like, okay. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? And he goes on to give his resume that he's, the serial killer. Don't you know who I am? And the man of God looks at him and he says, I know who you are. But do you? I'm going to kill you. What do you mean do I know? I know who I am. I'm a serial killer and I'm here to kill you. I'm going to kill you. He's real close to him now, like threatening. And the man of God is unmoved. And I love this story because two things. This man of God recognizes nothing can destroy him. He's an eternal being with spiritual existence that will ascend to life, true life. Mm-hmm. The second is, so this threat that he's going to kill him, it's not a threat. You can't kill and take what God doesn't give permission for. Mm-hmm. The second is, he says to him, I know who you are, but do you? As a man of God, as a woman of God, when we have our identity, when we know whose we are and who we are, there can be a murderer in your face, cursing you out, threatening you with all the things. And you simply recognize, they're a child of God. They just don't know it yet. Mm-hmm. Even the one who doesn't know Jesus. Whew. Church, I know this is offensive. This is an offensive message. This is the gospel message. Oh, you can't say he's a child of God. He's not a child of God. He's not remade. No, he's not a Christian. He's not been remade. But every person was created by God. That is scripture. He knit us together in our mother's womb. He created us, whether we acknowledge it and walk in the truth of that revelation or we don't, we are still created by one creator. Mm-hmm. So in this moment, this man is totally not functioning and not a believer, not operating in who he is called to be. He doesn't recognize there's a Jesus who came to die for him. And if he would be remade, he would see it. In this moment, this man of God can look at that evil. He says, you just don't know who you are. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so in 2.0, we begin to dive into that more. Because really the fruit of our life, we should be immovable, not unflexible. There's a difference. Flexibility actually declares your ability of being identified with Christ. It actually declares your identity. Mm-hmm. But immovability shouts that you are identified and one with the Father as Christ was. Yeah. You look at Christ on the cross, he was immovable. Nobody could move him from his position. Mm-hmm. Say who you are, declare who you are. His disciples, no doubt. Tell him, Jesus, tell him who you are. Just say something here. Tell him you're the king. Become the king in this moment. Mm-hmm. He remained silent. Not out of fear. He knew what he came for. Mm-hmm. He knew who he was. On the cross, he didn't look down and say, oh, you sinners, you evildoers, I saved your sick, I raised your dead, I healed your lame. Look at you, look what you're doing, I'm the Son of God.
Right.
No, he said, forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they do. Although they're declaring they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They weren't blood-washed saints. Yeah. Wasn't even a thing yet. Mm-hmm. They weren't believers or confessors of Christ. They were full-fledged evildoers, if we're to give it a term. And he looks at them with the depths of who he is, and he says, Father, forgive them. They just don't know who they are. This is where 2.0 picks up, because if, as the body, we can be immovable in who we are, when the politics of the world are going nuts, when my job's going crazy, when I don't have food to eat, when I'm in plenty, whatever may come, I will declare just like Paul did, none of these things move me.
Yeah.
In him I live. In him I move. In him I have my being.
Yes.
We get there, we're one step away from being into glory with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Immovability is what I feel is on the heart of the Father. I know that's the mission of my life.
Mm-hmm.
It changes everything.
How do you define immovability?
Everything that can be shaken will be.
Mm-hmm.
But I won't be shaken.
Mm-hmm. How does someone exude what behaviors do they exude that they're being shaken? I think you alluded to it.
That they are being shaken or
Yeah,
not being
that
shaken?
they are.
That they are. Fear.
Yeah.
Control.
Uh-huh.
A need for control.
Right.
You know, we talk about this phenomenon, Karen, like the Karen language, all these Karens, whatever. It's really just a person who feels like they're completely out of control of life.
Yes.
So they're looking for something to control.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's you that they're trying to control in that moment.
Yeah.
They just need Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, oh, but they're a believer. Yeah, but what do they believe? You know, I think that's one of the big things that has come out, even in the past few years, Zach, that we've seen, is what and who do we really believe?
Mm-hmm. So is immovability then the ability then to let go of control?
Oh, yes.
Is that a part of it?
Yeah, because you ain't never had control to begin with.
Right.
Control is an illusion.
It is. It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's complete relinquishing of this
Have
idea.
you heard of imposter syndrome?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Very, very intriguing.
Yes. Peter complex. Yeah.
Peter complex. Is that
Yeah.
is that
it's
the
like
same?
that. Yes.
Okay.
Like basically you've gotten promoted to a place where
I had just heard of this recently, but
yes.
I mean, we've been preaching it for years.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's fear that people are going to find out that
Who I
I'm
am.
not what they think I am.
Yep.
So I'm going to jump in and,
Yeah.
take control,
Yep. Yep.
But God's brought you into this space or in this place.
Yes.
He's promoted you and his hands
Yes.
on you. And he said, hey, you're not always going to have the right answers, but you can trust me.
That's it. Like this process of I am experience, this journey does not say I don't have weaknesses, that there aren't areas I got to work on. Honey, work in progress, okay?
Yes, yeah.
Continually under construction. Like, yeah, it doesn't say that. It doesn't negate that. But what it does say is it says that I may not be great at X, but God is greater than X.
Yeah.
So it acknowledges I have weaknesses, and there are plenty of areas we have to grow in.
Yeah.
Plenty. We have to grow. Like we must grow.
Yeah.
But it doesn't define me. My lack of growth doesn't define me any more than my extensive growth, my master's, my doctorate. Doesn't define me anymore. Mm-hmm. It's just realizing, okay, now God, I'm going to take this weakness to you and you be made strong.
Yeah.
God, I'm going to take this area that I need to work on. I'm going to get some wise counsel, man. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to lean in and glean from someone who already walked through this. That's where we land.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it.
Yeah.
The disciples clearly did not have it all together, but they had all they needed in him.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. There was a time where I asked a pastor, is there a time that comes, much older, is there a time that comes where you just don't care what people say anymore?
Yes.
Because again, I'm going through, I was going through that, and I'm just like I'm praying for confidence and boldness. And honestly, leadership just sucks it out of you.
Yes, it
does.
does.
Especially over leading through the complexities of
COVID. Yes.
Everything.
Dude. Yes. Everything.
People didn't even know what they were
angry
about.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
So you lose confidence in who God's called you to be. And it's so interesting because he said to me, he's like, yeah, it comes, the day happens where you don't really care what people think anymore because you know the truth and you know who you are and all those things. And it's so simple, right? But it's so complex to grab a hold of.
It is.
But I can honestly say this, wrestling with this really over the last couple months, and this has been my prayer that I look back in my prayer journal and I've seen the Lord answer, right? I mean, even to the point where good friends of ours, Rod and Jill, Pastor Allen, just gave us words of encouragement that they had no clue how I needed to hear that,
Come on.
and why in the world does God use the same people,
That's
every
it.
single time and every season?
it.
Because He knows, like, I view them as safe. Like, I know that Jill would never tell me
Yes.
something, because she is almost like Sister Peggy, and
Yes.
so in that regard, where man, she's got that prophetic gift,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she stewards it well.
Yes.
She doesn't just say things,
Yes. Yes.
But I've gotten to the point where I told Lauren, I'm to the end of trying to have any confidence in and of myself,
Yes.
because it's really that weakness that leans into boldness of who God is,
That's it.
and that's where who I really am as a pastor will come out.
That's it.
That's where who I am as a leader, and my heart breaks for other pastors right now.
Same.
Because we see, I don't want to ever put anybody down by any means, because you can't,
No.
you can't be responsible for what you don't know, but it's just a rat race, and people want you to be something that you are not called to be
Yes.
in today's world.
Yes. And
This,
Yes, absolutely. And it becomes one of those things that, like, you have to be so just in the Spirit, walk in the Spirit as I am in the Spirit, says Jesus, right? Like
Right.
You have to be so careful, and even like this idea of like getting to the place, right, where it doesn't matter, and that is the end game. That's where we're going towards. But you have to be careful that it's not also another false layer of identity. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah.
So I've seen like some leaders, executives mostly, who get to this place. Yeah, I'm confident in who I am, and like it's really like a false confidence, because it's built on, like, I don't care what anybody says, but I don't care what anybody else says. I've turned off my ears to them,
Right.
and that's not fruitful.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's like, no, like, I can hear what you're saying, and I can be open and available to have conversation, and open and available to discuss all the things.
Yes. Yep.
But it doesn't move me.
Right.
I take it to the Father, I ask the Father's heart, and I go with Him. And if it's a no to you, which might be hard for you to receive, I can deliver that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or if it's a yes to you, I can equally deliver that.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make me
You're right.
less of a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really important. And it does.
Unless we fix that, we'll wear a mask in every room that we walk into.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Unless,
that's the truth. That's the truth.
We have to be able to say what we're thinking. And I think at the end of my life,
Have to.
I guess one of the things that I want, and I know that you do this, you exude this in who you are. I know that Angela is going to tell me the truth.
Thanks.
I know that. Like, she's an honest person.
Thank you, Zach.
And isn't that so valuable?
So valuable.
It's
so important.
And when we have relationships in our lives like that in ministry, because I look at you and Nate as a layer of accountability to call me to who I am, and to call Lauren to who she is. And Lauren will tell you, she's told you this a million times, that you've absolutely changed her life, just as a friend, and,
Sissy.
yeah. But when you have people like that,
Yes.
it's you guys solidify who God has called us to be.
Yes.
And so those outside voices that say, I want you to be like this pastor,
Yes.
or like this person, or like this
Yes.
leader.
Yes.
Like, that's what it's like. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
That's
and
exactly right.
The rejection doesn't hit you,
That's exactly right.
and I think that's what happens.
Yes.
And that's what happened, I think, in the early days of the church, I think with me personally, where I started to feel that for the first time from healthy relationships, but there were also some other voices there, and I couldn't quite discern what was healthy and what was unhealthy, and who was calling me to who I was called to be, and who was like pulling me to who I wasn't. And that's natural, right?
Yes.
That's natural. I'm glad you're helping people with that.
Thank you, Zach. I want to do that for every leader, for every executive, for every pastor, like that. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Because I see, and we talk about it, you see the tower, the single tower, where there's no voice there. You see the potential and the beauty and the strength. I mean, they're thriving in everything, but yet you walk into the room and you can see, oh, dang, if you just knew who you are. You made a good point, Zach, when you were just literally, that's what I think so many times, dude.
If you just knew who you were.
If you just knew who you were.
Yeah.
Like not a facade of who you are.
Right.
Not showing up in the room as you think people expect you to show up in the room.
Yeah.
Just show up in the room.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's good enough.
Right. Yes. I'm thinking about a good friend of mine who pastors a church in the middle of nowhere, and he has about 30 to 40 people who come to his church.
Yes.
And he looks on the outside and says, I want to be like
Yes.
this pastor and this pastor. He is so confident in who he is, though. He's a good person. He knows
Oh,
what he's called to do.
Of course.
But he continually pulls back to like, no, this is what God has called me to do.
Yes.
And so the temptation in our world is to look at everybody around us and say, okay, this is what success is. True success is doing what God tells you to do.
That's
period.
it. Period.
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 And he's calling you to X.
Yes.
That's what he's calling us to.
That's it.
The pressure that people have to live with who are striving and looking out, no matter executives.
No matter. Yeah.
Where it is.
No
It's
matter.
like this pressure
Yes.
to be somebody that you were never called to be.
Yes.
The Apostle Paul, he said, I'm
Yes.
not going to boast outside of my circle of influence.
Yes.
I'm going to pray that God expands it, but I'm
Yes.
not going to boast outside of it, and
No.
I'm not going to step outside of it and take things. Isn't the sin of from the beginning taking God's will into your own hands?
Yes.
Like what you're talking about with Sister Peggy.
That's it.
What she was really calling him that pastor out in
Yes.
is a Saul issue.
Yes.
You know, I'm
Yes.
going to make the will of God happen. It depends on me to do it. But David
Yes.
was the opposite. He's like, I'm confident that God will fulfill his purpose for me.
Yes.
You know?
It's the difference from the garden in the beginning to Jesus in the garden.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
The difference of, my will to like.
Take it in my own hands.
Your will.
Nevertheless, your will be done.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
Yes. We have to live out of this. We have to.
We do, Zach. We do.
Yes.
And as leaders, it's super important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you made a really good point when you were saying, even in the beginning, like good voices and all of this, like there were people around me and like speaking to who I am and who I'm not. And I think one thing that's really important to note is like, you're a strong leader. I'm a leader. Like as pastors, as executives, as coaches, as managers, as counselors, as whatever you're doing as a student, you have influence.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was one thing that I think for me on my journey, I've realized because we have influence, again, you said it earlier, teachers held more accountable. We have to be more cautious of what it is we're shaping and how we're shaping it. You know, I can even remember, Zach, when the Lord speaking to me, I think it was back in maybe 2019 or 2018 with the church and being obviously very much a part, you know, executive pastor, I think 2018, 2019.
Those were fun days, weren't they?
Dude, we had so much fun. So much fun.
So we're both Enneagram 7s.
Yes.
You know, people might not be in the Enneagram, but you know,
but basically
I
it
can
means
make
we're
a Christian-
crazy
yeah.
and we want to break rules and have fun. But like
don't
we
give
also,
us any stupid rules.
No.
And don't put us in a
Yes,
box. Don't tell
right.
us something can't happen.
And that's really important, not stupid rules. Good rules were like, yes, let's figure this out. But
Yes.
dumb rules, if you go and make up a rule and tell me it's a rule, baby, that ain't a rule. I'm breaking it.
I ran a stop sign the other day. Lauren is like, Zach, what are you doing? I'm like, that is not my fault that they put that stop sign out. There's nobody around. There's not even a second road. It's a stop sign. There's not to
Why
turn.
is it here?
What's the point? She's like, you're teaching the kids wrong. I'm like, no, I'm teaching them to think outside the box. I had to tell the kids, don't run the stop
You're
sign.
like, I'm sorry, I
had
shouldn't
to
have
be
done
an
that
example.
one.
I had to be an example, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Like putting
Right?
parameters up. But I
It's
think
a stupid rule.
yes.
Don't give us stupid rules.
Yeah, don't make up rules. Like
Right.
I really like, and that
Yes.
was one of my things. Like even
No.
when one of my my
Make up
VP,
rules.
he was like, Ange, if you're not having fun, you're not. I was like, you're right. That's like a core value for me. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, and like if somebody tells you like this is what I need you to do, and that this is how you do it, you're like, where does it say that in the rule book? And I'm having success in this, doing it without. Why are you making up a rule?
Right.
For control.
Right.
And so
That's all it is.
that's why we would have conversations. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, that's a made up rule. And he's like, yeah, I hate made up rules, you know? So anyways, but when you were even saying that, I can remember even in just an honest moment, like in 2019 or 2018, might have been 2018. And I was just praying and with the Lord and, always trying to figure out like, what is it, Lord, that you want Hill City to be? And like, this is your kingdom. This is your church. And in praying and praying over you guys, which was obviously the great pleasure of my life and still is, and just praying and praying. And I just really felt the Lord was like, be careful that you don't make Hill City what you would want her to be. Make sure she's who I want her to be, you know? And so in those spaces, I thought, oh, Lord, that's so good. Tell me more, speak on, you know? And we just walked on this journey of like, we all have ideas. We all have thoughts. We all have, you know, oh, if this is our church, this is what it should be, you know? But it's always forever and always submitted to him.
It is, yeah.
And what
Has
he
to be.
wants, you know? And what it should look like according to his will.
Yeah.
You know, and so you brought up that point when you were just talking about strong leaders around you and all of that. And I think as leaders, as anybody of influence with people around you, you have to be mindful never to try to make them who you think they should be or to show them a way that you think they should go. You just build them up in who God's created them to be.
Right.
Now there's
right.
a path, like which we're seeing in this world that negates, be whoever you want, do whatever you want. Tomorrow you can be a cat, today you can be a shark. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is the reality,
It
right?
is, yeah.
Because they're looking for identity.
Yeah.
They just want to be loved and belong. And so in this space of like, of this world, there is a narrow path and it leads to life.
Yeah.
But these broad places we're seeing, be whatever you want, do whatever you want, that leads to destruction and death. But the point is that it's narrow, lead them to Jesus, period. Your friends, where you got influence, lead them to Jesus. Let him take care of everything else.
Yeah.
You know, speak truth to them, you know?
Yep. And that was a fun season whenever we got to have.
Oh, dude, it was so fun.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun for us. The staff was they were probably having some
Like, what is
anxiety
going
attacks.
on?
Yeah. We're changing everything up. We're going this way now.
Let's go here.
Let's go.
Let's go.
You know? So fun. Okay, let's do it.
Seriously.
It's fun. Well, there's a trust in that where it's like, you know, sometimes I think you and I, our personality is when God tells you to do something, you do it right away. And we have to recognize as leaders that not everybody is a right away.
That's right.
I have to process this
That's
myself. And you can't have buy-in without weigh-in sometimes,
That's right.
you know?
Oh,
so
yes.
it's easy because
Yes.
we trust each other. Like, oh yeah, Ann just prayed about this.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah, Zach came to me. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's
like,
right. Yep.
you know,
that resonates. Typically
fine.
what happens is
Right.
the Lord's already, you come to me with something, he already shared that. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I was going to talk to you.
Yep.
So that's even best.
We put words to what each other's thoughts, like what the Lord is doing. And that's,
Yes.
yeah. And it's fun to have you in the elder role, you know, you and Nate
Yes.
together.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
now
Yes.
to, you know, continue that.
Yes.
You know, because that was a fun season.
It was.
Yeah, that was a fun season.
It was fun. Like, just
you
trying to
never
figure out
knew
what to do.
was going to happen.
No,
You
because
know?
we didn't know what we were
This
doing.
is a Wild West.
We're like, God, what do you want? We're
Right.
just trying to like glean
Right.
from you here and go here.
Right.
And yeah.
Yep. And there's so much fruit from that.
Yes.
There was so much fruit from that.
Yes. And to, you know, so that anybody's listening or watching or whatever, like, there's still so many times I don't know what I'm doing in my life. Like,
Oh my
don't
goodness,
think
right?
that I'm sitting here and like saying, oh, now I know exactly
Now
what
we
I'm
know
doing
what we're
and God's
doing.
speaking to me and this is what I'm doing in my life. But like, you know, it's always a journey. It's
Yeah.
always a trust. But I think that as you move towards more of what God's called you to, you start to get a feel for the road.
Yep.
You know, it's like driving a car. You're like, you get a new car. You're like, ooh, man, that brake is really touchy.
Yep.
It's different from my last car, you know? Or, it hugs corners real tight. Like, so I don't have to pull. Or when I pull into that parking space, oh, this is nice. I don't have to do like a 3-point turn. It's
Yeah.
one. You know, here we go. It's just like that with the Lord, like in your journey with him. The more that you step out and trust him and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, you get to the feel for the road. You get
Right.
to, oh, okay, that's what that felt like that last time. Okay, and not just feelings, not going off our feelings, but this knowing, this sixth sense, this spiritual sense
Yep.
of like, yeah, that makes sense. And in my quiet time, I feel the Lord's breath on that. I know that's his breath.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
one more step, you know?
Yeah. What about the silent times?
Oh.
What about the times when it feels like, you know, you don't know what you're doing and you can't, it's like, where are you, Lord?
Oh, yeah.
You know, because those are real moments. Those are real moments.
Yeah.
I remember just meditating on the scripture where we live from faith to faith and glory to glory.
Yes.
And I'm like, sometimes it feels faith to faith a little bit more than glory to glory. You
Yeah,
know?
sometimes it feels faith to faith, muck to muck.
Yeah. Yeah, right? It
Yes,
does. And
yes.
that's a reality of leadership.
Yes.
It's never as glamorous
No.
as people put it out to be in their mind.
No.
They're like, "Oh yeah,
No.
I want to do this."
Yep.
Like I had a buddy, he's like having everybody, he's doing like a group teaching, like church
Okay.
teaching, and I saw somebody who's like, I can't wait to do that. And I'm like, not everybody's called
That's it.
to that. I can't wait to do
Zach.
that one day. And that's not like my friend. Again, I always want to
No.
clarify.
Oh, no, not
I'm never
with
going to
him.
put anybody
Yes,
down.
of course.
It's a great idea. But in the same sense, you see that awaken in people.
Yes.
And you have to like really pray. Are you actually called to do this? Are you doing this again to try to prove to everybody
Yes, because this is what I
that
feel
you're
like I'm
something
supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. I had a kid in youth ministry.
Yes.
The worst voice I have ever heard in my life.
Oh, no.
Okay?
Oh, no.
Completely pitch deaf.
Oh, no.
You know why he believed he was supposed to be a worship leader?
Why?
Well, we were talking about it a little bit outside there because everybody would say, "Oh, you did such a good job," whenever he would sing at the talent show. "Oh, way to go.
Oh, no.
You're so brave."
Oh, no.
I was like, somebody's got to tell this kid,
Oh, no.
don't eat that cake. I'm like, right?
Yes, honey. Yes. Don't quit saying those are the best cookies she's ever made. And you put them in your mouth and you're like, now somebody done lied to you.
Yes.
Why do you keep telling this woman to make the cookies? The
Yep.
cookies ain't good.
No.
Get
Yeah.
Gigi's cookies, get Gigi's brownies, make them. Yeah, like don't do that to people.
Uh-huh.
Don't do that to them.
Right.
You can love them and exhort them in other ways, but not in the place where it's
This
actually
might not be your
terrible.
gift.
Yes. And I think, Zach, you hit on something good there because I think I look around the world, honestly, and I see so many people making the cake and making the cookies when they ain't got no business being in the kitchen.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but they feel like, oh, I want to be famous. I want to be known. Because they're searching for identity.
Yeah.
I want to. So they show up in these spaces to do this thing that they
Right.
think is the thing. Mm-hmm. And they're miserable.
Yeah.
They're miserable. My brother has celebrity clients and a life coach and all this, brilliant man. And one of the most common things he sees is the misery of people's purpose. They're operating in spaces they're gifted in, but they literally hate what they do. And so it's like,
Yeah.
there is actually a marriage of the two. So if you step out and maybe you're like, oh, this teaching thing, I really want to do it. I really want to do it. And you step out and you're like, I didn't really love it, but like I should do it because that's what it is. Like I'm called to teach. So this is what it looks like. Well, you might be called to teach through writing books. You might actually
Right.
find out that you're a
Right.
beautiful writer.
Right. Like that kid, okay? His voice was horrible, but he worshiped God.
Like no
Unlike
other.
anybody else.
That's exactly
He was
right.
the kid in the front row with
Yes.
his hands up high.
Yes.
And I had to turn that monitor. We had stage monitors. I had to turn it up louder so I didn't sing off pitch because
you were hearing him.
But he was
Yes.
worshiping God. And that's what he
Yes.
loved to do. And
Yes.
the identity of it was, well, that's what you're called to do. You're called to be a worshiper.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And he didn't realize that him standing in the front row and worshiping God unabashed like that.
Yes.
He was actually leading
on,
right
come
there.
on, come
But he's like,
on,
I'm not gonna
come
feel it until I get
on,
up on that stage
come
and
on.
I have a microphone in front of me.
That's it. Come on. Zach, that's it right there. That's it right there.
Right.
Yes, you are in fact leading. You are called to worship. That's actually the
Right.
posture that you're
Right.
to live in.
Right.
You know, so
And just
yes.
because it's not a position,
Yes.
right?
Zach.
Doesn't mean it's not a calling. And just because you have a calling doesn't mean it's going to be a position. You get it.
I'm about
She's
to throw the
snapping.
mic.
She's
I'm
snapping.
about to
Go
throw the
ahead.
mic.
Throw it. Go ahead and throw it.
Caleb will kill me.
Yeah.
But seriously.
But the misery of people in the calling, it's so interesting
Yes.
how blind that, your brother sees it because he's with them.
Yes. Yes.
But we're all blind from the outside.
Yes.
And on social media.
Yes.
You have like, oh, it's so great because profits and revenue have been this.
Yes.
But doesn't talk about the sacrifice that you made
Yes.
not being with your kids or with your
Yes.
wife or with your husband or whatever it was
Yes.
to get to that place.
Yes.
So you could be killing it in the eyes of the world,
Oh
but
my
losing
gosh.
everything in the rearview mirror.
Yes. I literally just had a conversation with one of my dear friends, and they're going through a process of trying to figure out what they want to do,
Yeah.
and some things had happened, and what am I going to do? And all I said was, listen, I have seen now for at least 2 years that the light's gone out. Like, to be honest, one of the times when I had left them, got a little bit of time with them, I left them and I said, Nate, I'm worried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you get to that place where I felt they were, life doesn't have meaning. What's it all for anyways?
Right.
You know, and I was like, I'm worried. We got to pray.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, and I just, all I said was, listen, man, like, you've got to just examine and look at your life and say, the money you're making is ridiculous. Yes, it's beautiful. It's glorious. Wonderful. But at what cost? Right? Like, this is the age-old question. Like, I profit and gain the world, but lose my soul. That's not just talking about, like, gaining things in the earth and dying and going to hell.
No.
It's talking about, like, if I'm gaining the world, if I'm gaining all the riches, I'm gaining all the success, I'm gaining notoriety, but I'm empty, I'm not experiencing joy, I hate what I'm doing day in and day out, it's not a worthy exchange. You know?
Right.
We look at, especially in the social media day and age, man, like, we think money solves the issues of the heart, and it's the furthest thing from it. If anything, it commemorates, you know, it makes them worse, you know?
It does, yeah.
So it's like you've got to be very clear about that. It chokes out the word. It strangles you. It makes you feel tied down. And then when you have all the success, oh, what? People know me, you know, talking to my friend,
Yeah.
oh, well, they know who I am. They know, you know, how am I going to, well, yeah. I mean, you got to make a choice. Yeah, like, oh, you know, some of these celebrities, well, I can't just go and work in a restaurant. I can't just, well, you've got money and you can move. Like if you feel like literally like you're trapped, it's evident that you're not where you should be. Because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty, there's freedom.
Yeah.
You know, so if you feel stuck, you have to take that to the Father. And it doesn't mean like, you know, in marriages you might feel stuck. You know, that's a whole nother conversation, but that's for you and Jesus. But if you take it to the Father, He always shows you the way to life, the narrow path to life.
It's almost like you thought about some of this before.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've been processing it for a while, or you read a book about it or something.
Something that's weird, huh?
Something weird like that. It's so true. The shallowness in our culture amongst, you know, I was with somebody, you know, I have the pleasure of being with people
Yes.
before they pass,
Yes.
you know, when they have the bad news. And when I say pleasure, like that could sound painful, but it's actually like one of the more beautiful things in the world whenever somebody knows like, and they have dignity and they have worth and they have value in Christ.
Yes.
And I've just realized the closer someone gets to that age,
Yeah.
you know, Psalm 90, Moses said, teach us to number our days aright that we may apply our heart to wisdom.
Come on.
You know, when we know that our time is coming,
Yes.
Jesus, I think it's John 13, he knew that his hour had come.
Yes.
So what did he focus on?
Come on.
He focused on the things that were most important in the moment.
Yes.
Wow, right?
Wow, so good, Zach.
So I started to realize I'm with these people when I have a view of life that not many people get to have.
Yes.
Nurses and doctors get to have this, and you know, sometimes first responders. All you think about is like life. It just comes into focus.
Yes.
In your last hours.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, shouldn't I be thinking about these things
Yes.
right now?
Right now.
Yes. Ever since then, you will never see me posting on social media about any Hill City stuff.
Yes.
Because it's like I just want to be with my kids and play with my kids.
Yes.
Like if I'm leading people to Christ
Come on.
and my kids aren't becoming more like him and they don't have a dad who is engaged.
Come on.
And like Judah and I are reading a book together. He doesn't. It's a Max Lucado book, and it's called it's something about the shepherd. I can't remember.
Okay.
We're memorizing Psalm 23 together and reading it. It's wonderful. He doesn't ascertain all of the intricacies of that.
Of course.
What matters that he's right before bed. He's nestled up. His head's right here, and we're just reciting scripture together.
Yes, Zach.
You know,
Yes.
Noah wants to be a crazy missionary. That's what he wants.
Wait,
Okay.
what does he mean, crazy missionary?
He wants to go into some. The Lord has really been working on him. I'm getting emotional thinking about it.
Come on.
To give his life to missions and to go to unreached places and to really believe God for
Dude,
signs,
you got me
wonders, and
messed up.
miracles. Yeah.
Come on.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Come on.
You know, so he wants to go with Seth Reichert
Let's go.
on an SOS trip. Like he wants to go, he would go tomorrow. right? Like that's him. And so he's processing that, and he's starting to read a book by the gentleman who started SOS. Wow. You know, and I'm like, how's the book going? He's like, I don't really get it yet, but I said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll read it together.
I love that.
You know, I'm going to read some of it and we can talk about it. When it all comes down to it, we'll never look back and say, I'm so glad I did all of this.
No.
It was, I'm so glad that I looked my children in the eyes.
Yes.
And I led them to Jesus. I'm so glad
yes.
that Lauren and I spent so many meaningful moments together.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, and it's the same way the Father feels for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all he wants.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, just spend time with me.
Yeah. Yep.
It's only on this side of heaven that we get to show the Father his value in the midst of everything competing for it.
Wow. Yeah.
And like,
wow.
So when we make those choices, and this is why, like I always say, like our journey in our life.
That is such a good statement, Ange.
Right? Our journey in our life is not about like becoming a huge band rock star, becoming, you know.
Yeah.
We do these things because we feel called, right? Like he's feeling called. He's feeling a tugging of the Lord. It's all at the end for relationship more with him. Mm-hmm. You know? And so like our entire existence, the purpose is to be with him. Mm-hmm. So like when people come to me like, I don't know my purpose, I'm like, number one purpose, be with Jesus. Period. That is your purpose in life. When he put them in the garden, did he say, oh, now let me give you a great purpose? No, he said, name the animals, name the living things, have dominion, be fruitful and multiply, and walk with me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He wasn't looking for a great conquest. Mm-hmm. He was looking for their heart. Right. He just wanted a relationship.
That was it.
That was it.
Mm-hmm. And everything else is a game.
Yes.
And I've refused. I'm not going to play.
Yes.
I'm not going to play.
No.
How about you?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, dude.
No.
The one thing.
One thing.
It's the one thing.
Just be with him.
Over my sweatshirt. Need a lint roller.
Need a lint roller. That's funny. But it is the one thing, you know?
Yeah.
Knowing him.
Yeah.
And that's what Paul said.
Yes, he did.
You know? Was that the scripture that God gave you for one thing?
No, he actually gave me the scripture with
Mary and Martha. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. As soon as I said that, I knew the answer.
You knew it. Yeah.
I forgot.
It's actually written here.
There it is.
Yep.
I almost wore that shirt today. It's so
Come
funny.
on.
Yeah.
You should have. We could have been twinning every
I would
time.
have had to iron it. I didn't want to iron it.
I hate to iron. I hate to iron. It's a running joke with my mom. She's like, oh, if it needs iron, just bring it over, Ange. Bring it to me.
Bring it to
Let me see it.
Does Nate iron?
I
feel like he'd be really good at it because he
iron.
just gets things nice.
Yes,
and,
precise.
You know, precise.
Yes.
Yeah, we need that in our lives, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I'll just hang it up near the shower when I'm taking my shower.
Yeah. Hopefully that takes a little bit of the wrinkle out.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to take the time. I just want to move on to the next, you know. It's so funny. Right.
Yeah.
But there's something so, whenever we stop, so fulfilling about getting something done perfectly too.
Yes.
Right. I don't know how to reconcile that.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. You know. I'm proud of you, Ange. You've been running and doing a lot.
Thank you.
But it is fruitful, and you're making a great difference. IM experience is outstanding. Your heart for this next season, I think, is right on track with the heart of God.
Thank you, Zach.
That conversation we had regarding that, man,
Yes.
I've been thinking about it for the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to do whatever he's put before me and see the bride really and truly like experience the goodness of God.
Yeah.
And know that.
Right.
And when they are, put it out. Mm-hmm. You know?
Right.
Like when you get more of him, you're more satisfied. And when you get more of him, the world, like they come out of their hunger, you know, you satisfy, you give from the abundance within you, and they get abundance, you know? But when we don't do that, you know, we just give more lack, so they leave lacking. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know?
Right. Right. It's a game. That's a game. I'm proud of you for not playing it.
Thank you.
And just listening.
Thank
you
you.
know?
Thank you.
Yeah. Because even some things that the Lord is like dealing with your heart, and you're like, oh, I think that's going to shift in this area.
Yes.
I was concerned for you as a friend. I'm like, wait, I want to make sure she's good.
Yes.
And then our conversation was like, no, she's hearing,
Yes.
just hearing your heart. You're staying in tune with what God is leading you to do. And I'm proud of you of that, because
Thank
that
you.
only comes out of living that message that you're teaching.
Thank you. Thank you. Zach.
Right?
Yes.
Because everybody else will say, you got to do this.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody wants something sometimes.
Yes.
It seems as if so. It's not 100% true.
Yes.
But,
yes.
you know.
Yeah.
But you and you'll stand alone before God. I'll stand alone before God.
That's it.
I was reading an old timer just recently. I love reading guys from the monastic movement. Okay, because they just prayed the whole time. They just prayed and contemplated. I don't know, like, if I would ever want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I'd just be in a dark, depressed
I got to build
mood.
something, right? Yeah.
Literally.
But some of their books, Thomas A. Kempis.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever read anything of his?
Yes, in college.
In college, okay.
Yes.
And remember, how about The Hiding Place? Have you read that one? That's Corrie ten Boom.
I didn't read that one.
We had talked about singleness.
Yes.
And as I was reading it, Corrie ten Boom she went through a really tough
Wait.
breakup.
Oh no. Okay. No.
Well,
Okay.
it wasn't like you might know it.
Okay.
But this is an aspect of the book that's very short, but it was just like kind of a revelation. So
Okay.
you could have skipped over this part.
Okay.
But there was a gentleman that she thought that she was going to marry, and
Okay.
they would go for walks. They would talk about how many kids they would have, where they would live, all of
Okay.
this stuff. And her brother, who's very truth spoken, said, oh, he's never going to marry you. His parents wouldn't let it because they wanted him to marry a more dignified woman. Very simple. And so she was kind of heartbroken, but she didn't know then that gentleman showed up with his fiance to her house, introduced the fiance to her, right? Now, Corrie ten Boom was in Holland, and this was as Nazi Germany was invading Holland.
Yes.
Okay? And
Yes.
she was used, the hiding place, their house.
Yes.
They were used
yes.
to protect people.
Yes.
who were-
Okay.
yeah.
I just came into the
Right?
story in recent months.
Right,
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, you should
Yes.
read the whole thing.
Yes.
It's
yes.
unbelievable.
Oh, she
Yeah.
is
This
fire.
could not have happened if she would have gotten married. Wow. Think about that. Because her mind then would have been, as Paul talked about, you have cares of the world.
Yeah. So you
And
would
so
have
her mind would have been about taking care of family, which is right.
Yes. Oh,
Right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
But she would have been divided. Right?
wow.
And you know what, that pain of that breakup?
Yes.
It didn't affect her anymore. She didn't even think about it when she was in the concentration camp.
Of course.
All she could think about is how can I get out of here so I can help more people?
Dude, that woman
Yeah.
wrecked my life.
Really?
Okay? Dude, when she tells story, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
suffering and praising in suffering,
It's unbelievable.
I was
She
like,
was literally thanking God for an ant walking into her room
yes,
and coming out every day.
Yes,
He
that
would
was
go
the
down
story.
into a crypt.
that was the
Okay.
story.
Yeah. Well, I took it from you. I'm sorry.
No, that was that's what I'm saying. We in sync.
Yeah.
We're in sync.
But praising and
Yes.
suffering.
That's
Yeah.
it. And then whenever like they were worried about always having to strip and be naked because they do these inspections or whatever, and she and her sister praised God that they were placed in whatever they even called them, like cells or holding places where they would sleep, because it was infested with lice and fleas.
Right.
So they thanked God for the lice and fleas because it meant these soldiers, these men wouldn't come in to where.
And yeah, her sister,
Yes. Oh,
right? Because she's like, how can I thank God for lice and fleas? And her sister said, well, they're not going to come. The soldiers aren't going to come in here.
yes.
And
'Cause
then they
everybody
literally
stayed
thank
away.
God for the lice and fleas.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the scripture comes up in them when they're all being brought
Yes.
and they're naked.
Yes.
And she looks at her sister and they're both kind of mortified, but they realize Christ was naked on the cross.
yes. Listen.
And they're partaking in his sufferings. And it's like,
yes.
see, we know nothing about
No suffering.
true,
No, and I pray
true
to Jesus
suffering.
in heaven and God in heaven, please, Lord, don't let me ever experience that.
Right. I made the mistake one time
Jesus.
with the kids. I teach them about martyrs for the faith and everything like that. There's some like cartoons on YouTube that I can show Noah and Nora, and it's actually appropriate.
Yeah.
Right? I took it too far though.
Oh no.
Yeah, they were like, "Daddy, like, would you get arrested for the gospel? Would you?" And I say, "Absolutely." I would absolutely do it.
I know.
And they thought like I was going to. Like they took it to the point where like, oh no, like ministry's going to take Dad to the point where he's going to leave us in order to be martyred and die for the faith. They start crying in the car, and I'm like, what? And Lauren's like, Zach, they think that you're really going to get martyred now. I'm like, okay, guys, listen. Like, if God would call me to do that, I would do that, but he's not calling me to do that. Don't worry. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be your dad. I love you. You know what I mean?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, right?
I cannot.
Yeah, right.
Listen, I'm telling you, anybody listening to this conversation, Zach, they're like, where are you guys are like ping pong balls. But listen, that Corey 10 Boom.
Yeah.
If you are listening, get the Hidden Place book.
Hiding Place.
Yep, our Hiding Place book. And or go to YouTube and watch the interview with Catherine Coleman with Corey 10 Boom.
Catherine Coleman. Okay.
Interviews her.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You guys, it is. I literally sat there and listened to that woman. I was like, I mean, this woman should be like, she should have had a megaphone that resounded across all of the world.
Did you send that to me?
Your mother-in-law did.
Get out of here.
Pam, he knows what she's doing. She said, listen, I was so blessed by it. I was like, Miss Pam, you sent it to me. I'm listening. As soon as I put it on, I was like sucked in. I was like, what did this? That woman, oh my gosh, man. I was like, I want more of what she shared to be more of my responses. You know? Yeah. Like she just.
Yeah. Right.
I love how she went. I don't want to ruin everything, but like one of the things that stuck out to me is.
Who are we kidding? 10% are going to get the book, maybe.
Well, that's true. This is true.
And they know it. And they're laughing right now. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to get it.
That's exactly right.
Is it on Audible? I don't know. You know?
That's so true. Well, when she tells the story about afterwards, like in her age now, like she was an older woman when she was telling the story, okay? And she talks about how she loved going into prisons, and she did prison ministry.
That's right, yeah.
And how she said that she would go up to these cells, and everyone would be like, now listen, you don't want to sit with the prisoners, you don't want to be near them. She said, oh, pish posh. Oh, you don't know what these men did. You don't know what they did. She said, oh, every one of us, all of us, prisoners without Jesus. And so she would go up to the cell and she would share with one man, and she said, oh, you got beat, I heard. Yeah. Did they take you to the emergency? Oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh. Did they give you salve for your wounds? Oh, a little bit. Oh, yeah, I know what that is. Do you have hatred in your heart? Yes. Oh, hatred. I made up with it. I hate him. I hate this place. I hate what I did. This why. That I cannot resonate with. I've been to the prisons. I've been beaten. I've been deprived, not given food. But hatred, I can't understand it. And here's why. And she would share the gospel message. And in 5 minutes, she'd say, do you want your hatred gone? Yes. And she would pray with them. And she said this one prisoner, as she prayed, afterwards he prays. And she said, oh, there was no more beautiful prayer I've never heard. A man who's never heard the gospel of Jesus. And he prays this beautiful prayer. And you could see the hatred melt from him. And he says afterwards, he goes, will you do me a favor? She said, yes. 2 cells down, my friend's there. Tell him what you told me. Wow. And she went down, same thing with him. Yeah, I've been beaten. Yeah, I'm in prison. I've been stuck here. Oh, they treat me horribly. Yeah, they do these searches. I can resonate. Hatred, ate up with it. Oh, but I can't understand that. Let me share with you, Jesus. And at the end of it, he shouts out and he says, brother! And the other man says, brother, we're brothers now in Christ. Like this woman, like she took what she experienced, being imprisoned, being not rightfully there. And she didn't leave it and go, and that's what she says in this. She says, I didn't take it and think, oh, well, I didn't deserve to be there. I was righteous. I was doing the right thing. I ended up there. These men did the wrong thing. They're murderers and they ended up here. No. We both were in the same circumstances. And I found my escape through Jesus. I can give it to him too. her view of suffering, her view of calling, her view of loving people, it is nothing but Jesus.
Right.
Lord, make us like that. That I don't show up. Like, this woman literally was in prison for doing the right thing, and she's face to face with a man who's murdered people, many people. And she doesn't say, I'm better than you. Again, it goes back to, he just doesn't know what he can get. He doesn't know who he is.
Right. And so many people feel they could never walk in that type of love.
Yes.
Oh, well, that is just a unique person, right? That's just like, well, she had a unique calling and I can't. That's not me. But the love of God has been shed abroad in our hearts.
Our hearts. Yes.
All of our hearts.
All of our hearts.
Yes. And we have to yield to it. And it's like a muscle. The more you expand, the more you move, the more it grows.
Yes.
Right?
It's yielding.
And it's like when we have kids.
Yes.
You have multiple children. I have multiple children.
Yes.
You think that your love is going to get divided.
Yep.
It doesn't get divided.
Nope.
It just expands. I didn't know that I had more of a capacity to love.
Yes.
And every child and every person who comes into the church or whoever,
Yes.
Yes. Deeper relationship
meet.
that we feel like, man, it's like I love more people now.
Yes.
That love expands.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
It is.
And that
It's
can
powerful.
happen for anybody.
Yes.
Right?
But we must yield.
We have to. Have to.
You have to
Right.
yield. When she came face to face with the man who killed her sister, was horrible to her sister, was beating her as she was dying because she was too weak.
Yes.
She was dying.
Yeah.
She comes face to face with this man. And this is that man. And he comes over and he says, I want to come and apologize and ask for your forgiveness for what I've done.
Wow.
Blah, blah, blah,
Was
he
that
had
later in
met
life?
Jesus. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He had met Jesus.
Wow.
And she said, everything in me wanted to say, no, I'm not reaching my hand. I watched as she was weak, too weak, and you're beating her. But she said, I said, no.
And not only
Jesus.
they were ridiculing her, they were making fun of her as they beat her.
Yes.
The Booker courts. It's like,
Yes.
you're right.
Like a dog.
Yes.
Like worse than a dog.
Yes. Yes.
And she says in this moment, oh, yes, of course I forgive you. Of course I forgive you. She yielded.
Yeah.
In that moment, she said, not my will like the Garden of Eden, thy will like the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yes.
She chose to walk like Jesus.
Yes.
If we could get that.
Right. By this they'll know
Yes.
if you have love one for another.
Yes. Yes.
One of my friends is native Cambodian,
Okay.
and she wanted to work pouring water for the monks. Wow. Okay. That was what she wanted to do her whole life.
Wow.
Her parents had both tragically, I believe they both committed suicide. One may have tragically died, and their father was left to raise she and her brothers, and then he had committed suicide. She was then taken into a children's home, okay, in Cambodia, and the Cambodian people they've had it so difficult, with Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge and the issues that Pol Pot essentially, he took grandparents here and he took grandmother here and grandfather here and mom here and child here, separated everybody. He killed everybody who had glasses because there was the belief that people who wore glasses were more intelligent. He burned all the history books, and they believe like, oh, we invented these things and we this was a part of our culture, but they have no way to prove it now because their history is completely wiped. So people without identity, they don't know who they are.
Yes.
Okay. And so from that, she had never experienced love before. And she was placed in a Christian children's home. And she was so bitter that she was going to a Christian children's home. She wanted to be in a Buddhist children's home. And she said, I can't believe they're doing this to me. They know where I want to go. They know where I want to go.
Yeah.
And she said there was a man there who was running that children's home. And she said there was a gate that they would walk through. And he stood there with open arms. And she didn't know what that meant because her father had never hugged her before. She was like, what is he doing?
Wow.
And so then, can you imagine this?
Wow.
He pulls her in and he hugs her. And she said, I had never felt love before. And that is what opened her heart to receive Jesus, and now she's a missionary. Interestingly, she's a missionary. She married a friend of mine from college, okay? And they do great work over in Cambodia, but they come back here to the States. And because of the way that she looks, okay, she looks Native American.
Yes.
And so she goes to Native American Indian reservations and shares the gospel.
Come on.
And she's led so many people to Christ
Come on.
with that message of the love of God. She's doing the same over. She's really funny to talk to about that. You know, she's like, people don't know where I'm from when I go on the Indian, you know, the Native American reservation. I said Indian. I don't know what, you know.
Yeah.
But man, I love that. It's the love. It's the love of the Father that compels it. It opened up and changed her life, and now that's her life message. You know.
Yes.
Isn't that powerful?
Dude, that is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful example that, like, you need no one else's love but God's.
Right.
And from that vast fountain, she's giving to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have the love of her parents to wrap their arms around her.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have the love of family.
Mm-hmm.
She has the love of God.
Right. Right.
And she's feeding thousands the love of God.
Right.
Through one source.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
He is the garden of abundance.
Mm-hmm.
There's no lack.
She has identity.
She knows who she is.
She knows who she is. Yeah. And out of that,
Yes.
people go through so much.
Yes, they do, Zach.
And sometimes when we have the perspective of what other people go through, right, it helps us to have a proper perspective on our life that, no, we can actually do this.
Sobers up
God
our
did
thinking.
it for them.
Yes.
He can do it for me.
Yes.
You know?
Sobers our thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I would suppose it's probably, Paul said it's unwise to compare yourself one to another.
Yes.
But there also is like a way that we can look at it and say,
yes.
there's a wise way to look
Yes.
at those things, I would imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like the Corey
Yeah.
Ten Boom. It's like, is this rejection from a boss
Yes.
is difficult?
R-
If
right.
God can bring her through this, he can bring
Yes.
this to me. He can bring me through it.
Yes. Anything.
Right.
If I feel lonely,
Right.
let me look to her example. Let me walk as she followed Jesus. And in her moment of loneliness, she praised the Lord for an aunt. Because then she was no longer lonely.
It's perspective. She had somebody to talk to.
Yes.
They would come and visit her every day, she said.
Yes, every day. Just crawls under that little crack.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Perspective. Have you ever read Richard Wurmbrand? No? He was tortured in Russia, USSR, when it was
Okay.
communist. Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah. He has a book called Torture for Christ. Very good.
Oh, wait, I think I had that book on my bookshelf, but never read it.
Yeah.
I can see the title. Is it brown? Like the outside of it look brown?
I'm not sure.
And say
I
like
think
almost
the
like
one
it's
I had
branded.
it was branded. It had like red. I think it was like brown. Yeah, but I
But
think
like
his
it's
hands
branded.
were on
Yeah,
it
yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah. I think I had that. I need to
I
pull
think
that one
everybody needs
out.
to read that one.
I need to pull that out.
Yeah, perspective.
Yes.
You know, so
Yep.
it's been great talking with you.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
All
we'll do
day.
it again. We'll
Yeah,
do it again.
literally,
you know?
all day, dude.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we didn't record a beginning, but we can do that.
Okay, perfect.
At the very,
Okay.
at the very end or whatever.
Okay.
But
Yep, let's
thanks.
do it.
Okay, so
Thank you.
before we wrap it up, if
Yes.
there's anybody focused right here,
Yes.
your ministry website,
AngelaMaddenOfficial.com.
official.
Yes.
Angela Madden official.
You want to know the story behind that real quick?
Go
I
ahead.
couldn't take Angela Madden because it was taken by a knitter.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So I had to do Angela Madden Official.
Why you are the official Angela
Listen,
Madden.
official.
That is the fake one. Whoever that is, it's a fake one. So
We're
Angela
thankful
Madden.
for your knitting, but you took the website I wanted.
Are you almost done with version 2 of?
Yeah, so the I Am Experience, that'll be
well,
offered
that's just
as,
I Am Experience?
Yeah, it's just the I Am
Okay, so you're
Experience
not doing
2.0.
your book over.
I don't
as well.
think I'm going to do a 2.0 book.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We think it'll probably just exist because there's so many more complexities to it. And I like, when I'm writing, I like to be as like concise as I possibly can. And I feel like, I don't know, we'll see. It'll exist first, though, in a retreat form.
Well, Caleb's mom is a great editor.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, if you ever need any.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get you her contact information. Okay, so you got that. And You
Instagram,
are-
Facebook, Angela Madden Official.
Yeah, there it is. Cornerstone.
Cornerstone.
Get
Yep.
Ange, thanks for everything.
Thank you for having
Seriously.
me. I
Yeah.
love doing this, dude.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yes.
It's fun. All right, over and out.